Hello?
Hey, Jameel, how's it going, bro? It's Keanu, man.
Hey, what's up, man?
Good, man. Chilling. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you turn it up just a little bit?
Yeah, hold on. How's that?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
All right, cool. Yeah, good, man. I've been running around all day from yesterday trying to figure out how I was going to get this recorded, but the simplest thing ended up being the best. I just downloaded an app from the little app store, and bro, yeah, we're in business, so. Yeah, man, it's good to finally get to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, man. No, I like to talk to I'm really interested. I like to talk to people, especially people, you said you're in Australia?
Yeah, I'm in Australia. I'm in Brisbane.
What's in?
Brisbane, Australia.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So,
Yeah, I've been here for
you've been there how long?
like almost 8 years now, man.
Oh, for real? Hey, they got you 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 know what, man? I always thought like the Australian girls, they got a real pretty accent. The females out there?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You'd love it over here then, for sure.
Yeah.
You'd love it on that aspect alone.
Hey, bro,
But yeah.
uh, I was say, you ever heard of the concept of black extraterrestrials? You ever heard anybody talk about that?
Well, see, man. Now we're getting into one of the things I want to talk to you about anyway, because that's basically how I kind of stumbled upon you.
Uh huh.
A few months back when I first initiated contact with you. It was basically right at that time um, when I was looking up that, and then I just stumbled upon that, little exchange you had with Jordan Maxwell in that 5 hours you guys did. But yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. But the thing is, I was just, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you because you were one of the few people that I had basically had the same conclusion that I had come to after, researching this for quite a while was that, what the hell is the black man and the black woman in outer space? You know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't even exist. And all of these outlets that, I was kind of using for resource material. I'm saying, I think I told you this on the first email I sent you, man. I mean, literally, I must have viewed thousands of hours of ET, conversations, dialogue, like first-hand experiences and all of that, and nowhere, I mean, first of all, majority of them were Caucasian. Like 90-something% of all the experiences that I've seen on video have been Caucasian. And all of their experiences, I've only heard maybe one or two mention anything about black ET.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. When I first started looking into extraterrestrials, the first thing I heard about was the Roswell thing, and that was basically like gray type aliens. Then a few years later, I heard about the reptilians, and then the Pleiadians, and it became a thing of like nobody ever mentions anything about extraterrestrials looking like Asiatic or black or anything other than white if they look humanoid. And I did a channeling session the other day, man, and I know a lot of people think the channeling stuff is unreliable, but I did it through a guy named Brad Johnson who channels an energy from Sirius. And he's been out for a while. I mean, he got some really, really good stuff, information that comes through him. And I asked him about the Olmec statues. Are you familiar with the Olmec statues?
Definitely.
Right, and the information came through that the Olmec statues were constructed by an extraterrestrial civilization that had came here to the Earth, you know, I mean, thousands of years ago. And that's
Have
what,
you
huh?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just what you're saying, I actually wanted to kind of go back with something I said. I started doing this research probably around consistently in 1994.
Mhm.
And it's not that I didn't find any people talking about black extraterrestrials or anything like that. It's just that the people that I found were in the black community, you know. So I was going to ask you if you've ever heard of, I'm sure you have heard of Dr. Blair. He's up in Chicago.
You know what?
Dr. Delbert Blair.
I've seen him on. I think I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube. Like he's up there with like Dr. Ben and Phil Valentine and some of the Moors and stuff. Is he kind of like in that circle a little bit?
Well, yeah, but he specifically deals with more like the ET stuff, you know what I'm saying? And like basically the history of us, from, tens of millions and 50 million years back, before the earth was formed and all of that stuff, and what we were doing at that time as ETs, as being descendants of, black ETs from outer space, essentially. So he goes into great detail, and individuals like Phil Valentine as well, Bobby Hemmett. So I had my sources, but, of course, these were like, just three individuals out of a sea of, people talking about this stuff. So I'm like, what's going on? What's really going on here? And then what really raised my eyebrow when I said enough's enough, right about the time when I saw your video again, I was just rewatching a video of the chick from Project Camelot. She did with the guy that did the Rings of Saturn.
Yeah,
he wrote that material.
Yeah.
And so I was watching that again, and I just, I couldn't help but notice whenever he was describing these individuals on this ship as these tall black men, and she was like, she tried to correct him. She was like, she said like, she tried to describe maybe like, it was like a color or something, like it was like this. He's like, no. And the dude was like, no, they were black. These are black men, 7, 9 foot tall black men, blah, 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 blah. And she just immediately cut to another topic, So that's kind of how I've seen, these guys, who have these high profiles, how they deal with this particular subject. It's like they don't want to deal with it at all. And if someone brings it up, then it's like, hush, hush, let's sweep it under the rug real quick. I don't know if you noticed that at all.
Yeah, I had saw a clip of that, and I thought that was like, I thought there could have been more to be said for that, but I also saw there's a guy named Credo Mutua that David Icke had interviewed, and I thought it was a pretty good interview. I thought Credo, was very interesting, and I liked what he said, but it seems like the traditional African type people that do interject information into the alternative research, they never comment. No one ever comments on the Olmec statues or the concept of, the black extraterrestrials or, like black people having to do with like ancient Lemuria and stuff. It's almost like it's almost like a department that never comes up. Like it's been kind of written out of the alternative research field.
Yeah, I mean, man. As far as I can research, man, and I got a few pages here. There's a very specific reason why. I mean, just like everything, like they. I'm just, the more I research, like as every day goes by, and I find out, especially about our history in America, and really who we are in America, and globally, universally, or whatever. It's almost like, who the hell is controlling this information, and why is it so difficult for this information to get out? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, there's books. I can read off to you 16 books right now that speak about, just not even with regards to the EP, but this is all connected, that really speaks about who we are in America, how we were the indigenous people of that land, from a long time ago. And it's really our, bloodline that runs through America, north and south, you know what I'm saying? And essentially, yeah, our ancestors did not yield from this planet. This is what gives us the authority over the planet. You know what I'm saying? This is why we were the first. Everybody knows that no matter what color you are, if you are into that, discipline of science, archaeology, and stuff like that, then you understand that the oldest people on the planet are the original man with regards to 9-ether original man. You know what I'm saying? The blackest beings on the planet were the first ones here. Just like everything else, that's how creation works. I mean, we can go on and on. Black precedes everything. Every single color of the rainbow, every single color in the spectrum that we see all emanates from black. So knowing this, you know what I'm saying, they have gone about the business of making sure that we, especially in America, because I think America holds like a critical key to everything that's going on the planet right now. You know, like the Africans in America, the indigenous ones in America that are, you know, the keepers of that land. We hold the key to everything. You know what I'm saying? But we don't know who we are. We're still running around trying to decide if we're, you know, African Americans still, you know, or, you know, Hebrew Israelites or this or that. You know what I'm saying? So I think in a lot of ways it's really up to us to kind of like do the research and figure out for ourselves, make a decision based on knowledgeable research and information that's out there, you know, and move forward into that. And then we don't need anybody else. You know, we don't need to have to look to all these other outlets to kind of put our story out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And there was a girl I was talking to, and she was a part. Have you ever heard of the Jack and Jill Club of America?
I haven't. Are you referring to the sister that you've done a few clips with? She was a experiencer.
Well, the Jack and Jill Club of America is a highly prestigious, um, sort. It's a club, but they, you know, it's some of the most highest, richest black people in America, and they're a part of the club, and their children grow up in the club. And I'm not talking about like, you know, basketball players or anything like that. These people are like doctors, lawyers. You know, they've been,
Or the boule.
yeah, they've been rich. Even some of these people have been wealthy black families since slavery. Since slavery ended, they were wealthy then, and they're still wealthy now. But they're rarely spoken upon. And there's a book that came out called Our Kind of People, and it was written about a guy who had went through the Jack and Jill Club of America. But I talked to a girl about it, about her experience, and she told me a lot of the people in there know all about this stuff, about like the Moors, and
Yes.
there's a college called Morehouse, and it's a famous black college, and the people at the college, they have the largest collection of African Caribbean artifacts. So everything about the Moors and the Olmecs and all stuff, they know about all this stuff, and they're the elite black people in the country.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm from Atlanta. You know, I grew up in Atlanta. You know,
Right.
And I was not aware that they had those type of artifacts there. I was aware, you know, like these individuals we're speaking of are the boule. I'm sure you've heard that name before.
Yeah.
The boule.
That's how the girl I talked to, that's how she referred to them.
Yeah, so this is the black elite. Yo, this is so funny, man. Like, it's so crazy. Like, this research that I've been doing, I've got pages and pages of research. I was just looking over some of this before I told you up. And basically, this story with the Moors is so deep. We really should chronicle this like in a more organized fashion. But just just for kicking the can right now, yo. What basically happened was the Civil War, yo. That was not a war of independence. That was a war, basically, black on black crime. That's what that was, yo. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, all the research is there, all the history is there at night. That was basically a war between the indigenous Moors of America, of North Mexico, as they called it, versus these European Moors that we had allowed to come over to our shores at a certain time, bringing over their white slaves. You understand? Like we were the ones. I'm saying the indigenous Moors here, who they were ultimately start calling Native American and all these other names like that. We basically allowed these Moors to come over here back. What was it, like in the probably from like the 1400s to the 1600s? This is all going on. Because you had this cat, King James, who was also a black Moor. I don't know if you were aware of that, but King James, this cat who they say we see these pictures of him as a homosexual white boy, whatever, it ultimately was a black man a Moor, you know what I'm saying, out of England, a Christian Moor and shit. And he decided that, hold on a second, we can't keep doing this. Because you know about the slave trade, right? How that was actually started and who started it.
I've heard a lot of different versions of that, but I'm starting to perceive you're going to say something I never heard before. I'm getting it.
Okay, well Pete this math, yo. So basically, on record, we just start with the etymology. The origins of this word slave comes from, Slav, originating from Slovenia. You know what I'm saying? Like the Gauls of France, that whole area right there. So this is just like a slang name that we gave them. Okay, so it was the Moors, well, more so these European Moors, who had ultimately came out of the Ottoman Empire and then began to, like their descendants who began to mix with the Caucasians in Europe. Basically, their descendants were the ones that were the initiators of this slave trade. Everybody was involved. Basically, this is a Moorish thing. The Moor dominion was ultimately the entire planet, which goes back to, us being the descendants of the Most High, all that stuff like that. So you had these light-skinned Moors, basically these Holy Roman Empire Moors or whatever, that was kicking off the slave trade. They were taking, white people from France and that area of Europe and just basically to all of the dominions all over the planet. And then about that time in whatever, 1600 or whatever, King James was like, enough. He ordered a global decree and said, yo, you got to cut this out. So what they did, they kept it going, except for they started to reroute the trade and start going through like the Mid-Atlantic and the Caribbean and all of that. And boom, they landed up on our shores. We were like, yo, what's going on? This is down in like South and Central South America firstly. And we're like, hold on a second, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh yeah, blah, 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 we brothers, we cousins, let us just hang out. We're like, okay, we'll give you guys the code fee, let you do your thing, but don't bring that any further. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to break bread because y'all family, but that's it. And so, over the time, 50 years or centuries or whatever, they keep this shit up. And next thing you know, they mistreating these white people so bad, that they're running out of South America up into Central America and ultimately up into North America, which was, our home at that time. That's where we had our, the capital of everything, basically. So this is where all of the war started. So what I'm saying to you, like the Civil War was fought between the indigenous Moors of America, of North America, and the Moor, our cousins that we let come over with these white slaves over to America. And that was the origins of the Civil War. The white boy didn't even get into the last couple of years of it. And we enlisted them as generals. This is all in the history books, yo. You know what I'm saying? So there is a vested interest in keeping us, how could you say, in the dark about who we really are. Because what happened was, out of the Civil War, you have Abraham Lincoln, who was Abraham Africanus, another Moor, a black man. You know what I'm saying? All of what I'm saying to you, there's books out there, and by the way, his vice president, his name was Hannibal Bay or something like that. This is his black vice president. It was like blacker, like 2 tones blacker than me. You know what I'm saying? I'm brown. You know what I'm saying? So he was 2 tones blacker than me. So you had this going on. What Abraham Lincoln did was he issued the 13th Amendment, which is basically giving Moors the opportunity to reclaim their status, after the war and stuff like that. He issued the 13th Amendment, like probably a month later, boom, 2 to the dome piece in the theater. He's gone, assassinated. They took the 13th Amendment and basically hid it away for like 100 years, and in its place, they issued the 14th Amendment, which created the first, artificial person, which was the first document to take us out of our true free national status. And guess who they used to do the dirty work?
Who?
These same individuals that you're talking about, these boule motherfuckers, right? These individuals, they were first preachers. They used these former Moors who didn't, claim any status or whatever after the war, and basically got paid off and got bribed off to sign up all of these POWs, because we were not slaves, we were POWs. We were fighting against each other, and that's what all the documents say if you go back and read about the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? They call us POWs and stuff. So when we came out of that, they were like, okay, here's the 13th Amendment. You can go back and claim your free national status, or you can come over here and get into this new corporate nation-state game called the United States of America, and we'll give you your status, and you won't be an actual person, in this particular system or whatever. So you have black men as preachers. You know what I'm saying? Sounds familiar? Even back then, this is where it started. The preachers were the ones who basically turncoat and gave all of their, inheritance, their very livelihood to the soil that their ancestors had been on for tens of thousands of years, even in recent times, over to this new establishment. You know what I'm saying? So basically, we fought each other, and this is like from a long time of fighting. All the way back from Egypt. You know what I'm saying? We have been fighting and fighting and fighting. Hannibal and all those wars. You know what I'm saying? We conquered the whole of Europe and civilized the whole of Europe. So it was prophesied that we were going to fall. So basically, what we were trying to do is set up a receivership with these individuals or whatever to just hold our place until we came back into knowledge and into power. And that's what's going on. So you had a certain ones of our own that betrayed us and swore an oath, a blood oath, to never, ever reveal the secret. To never reveal the secret. So into the whole concept of masonry and Freemasonry. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, the term Freemason, that means basically the freed son of a Moor. That's what it literally means, the freed son of a Moor. So we gave them this. We set it up for them, and they betrayed us. And so obviously that's what I'm saying. Anywhere, whether it's terrestrial or extraterrestrial, they're trying to hide it, yo. They're never going to let us know who we really are.
You know what, man? That's so deep that you expressed that just now. All that knowledge you just dropped, because last night I was talking to Del Goddess. We had recorded some stuff, and she was telling me, we were talking about how the whole history of the Civil War and everything, it could have been like, what you call the Mandela effect. They could have switched the timeline and made people just basically lied about what really happened and made you think you were a slave when you really weren't. Like they put a version in the history books, and so you think that's your timeline. You think that's what really happened, when it didn't.
That's amazing how that chronology works. You guys were just talking about it yesterday, and I'm bringing you like the actual factual, like less than 24 hours later.
Yeah, you ever heard the concept that ancient Lemuria was actually called the ancient Lemurians? Didn't call it Lemuria; they called it Mu.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's all true. Again, and that's our lineage. What you're talking about is the lineage, which gives us the rightful rulership of this land. You know what I'm saying? Not like rulership like that, but we are the descendants of the Most High through blood, through our actual DNA, yo. That's what they're hiding from us. You know what I'm saying? So you had the L's, you had the House of El, which was like the clan from North America. And you had the Bays and stuff, which are most of those, like, again, descendants of the original Moors from the Ottoman Empire that had mixed with the Caucasian over in Europe and stuff like that. And these were the two factions or whatever that were going up against each other. And, ultimately, all of these tribes, like the Olmecs, so the Olmecs, all of that, what you're saying about, like, that, connection from, like, basically Lemuria and Mu, because back then, we were high scientists, we were on, like, literally, that fourth-dimensional level and above and stuff like that, and technology to boot. You know what I'm saying? So whenever the planet, or we went from, like, that one, like, landmass and everything, like, separated, whatever, you just had black societies that had basically floated away in different parts, and we were all still related. So basically how they're saying is like we had the Olmecs. They were there for like, tens of thousands of years. And then our black brothers and sisters over from the Shang dynasty of China, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, the first dynasty, the Shang dynasty, marks blacker than, the blackest person you know. They came over, reconnected with us, you know what I'm saying? We began to sow seeds or whatever. And that ultimately created like a succession of lineage, the last one being the Yamasee out of, again, Georgia, right where I'm from, North Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Those are the last descendants of the Olmecs. So, you tell me, what the hell are they hiding? Why don't they want us to know who we really are? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's something going on with that, and you know what? Even in modern times, man, I was looking at some footage from World War II about Japan, and most of the Japanese people back then looked black. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, definitely. They were definitely darker than you are right now, for sure.
They look. I swear, man, there was like about 4 or 5 people. I mean, out of every 10 people, half of them would look like they half of them would look like guys you might see in the hood or something. You know, just hanging out, chilling. They didn't look like they were even Asian. They look like, I know you
And
can say Africa type people. We're Asiatic, but they didn't look like they were like Japanese Asian. They looked like they were like, coming from maybe in Puerto Rican or something, but not Japanese. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I was always wondering how the hell did they get there? Like how the hell that happened? you know?
yeah, as well, yo. I mean, it all makes sense to me now on such a like magnificent level. It's beautiful, but it all boils down to because we were everywhere, and even that term Asiatic that just refers to a time when there was only one landmass. That's what that means, and that not only when there was only one landmass, but then when there was only one people, the original people on the planet. Those are your Asiatics. That's us. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
like, even the term Elohim, like, that basically tells, like, which is L is short for, right? That tells you everything. But the thing that I find so fascinating is how they flip the script and they turn everything upside down and inside out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I remember back in the day doing this research, and I'm researching about, like, a lot of that Zachariah Sitchin material. I was all over that. So I'm looking at these characters like Baal and, these people like that who they portray as like these disagreeable entities or whatever. Come to find out, nah, Baal and El, those are basically the combined clans of the Bays and the Els and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I spent a lot of time in Florida, quite a bit of time, pretty much like most of my adult life in Florida, besides the years that I've been over here. And like Miami was like that's my spot. I love Miami, man. And I've been lived all up and down the beach. And there's this one part. It's called Ball Harbor, and it's really, really rich and just like uppity, and it's just nice. It's just like if you had money to spend and time to waste, that's where you would be. You know what I'm saying? And I never forget as you enter like Ball Harbor, that area. There's like this imagery, like this signage, and it has like a mariner, and one side of his face is like white, and the other side is just like it's black, like it's covered or something like that. And I always thought that was like some interesting imagery or whatever. Not knowing that's just them telling us that this is right in front of your face, and you don't even know. All of this is yours, and you don't even know. You know what I'm saying? That's what I realize right now, because basically what I'm saying is that unless and until we go through the steps of claiming our nationality, who we are through our blood, and I'm saying with regards to documentation, blood tests, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? DNA tests, all of that will give us the right to claim who we are, and then go about the business of moving in this existence as the true born natural, caretakers of all the lands of the planet, no matter where we are. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it's about. As long as, we reside as, on paper, I'm an African American. You know what I'm saying? I'm a dual citizen. I'm an African American / Australian. As long as I continue to allow myself to maneuver under that particular impedance and jurisdiction, then I'm dead. Literally, I'm dead. I don't exist, and I can never be who I truly am. And I've given them the right to maintain me in this particular status. And that goes from the physical to the spiritual and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because understanding that this connection that we have is not just about land, or it's not just about inheritance and all stuff like that. Although that is a part of it, it's more about, again, that spiritual connection that we have to the Most High, which resides in the very cells through this melanin and this mind ether that we embody more than anybody on the planet.
Yeah, I had,
That's what it boils down to.
uh, I have been aware a long. You know who Taj Tariq Bey is?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, from the Moorish National Divine Movement. I have been listening to a lot of his stuff for years, man. And like the sovereignty stuff and all that. I had kind of that was part of my foundation. I grew up kind of listening to that stuff, and growing up, I knew a lot of people who were black Muslims who always had different interpretations of the Quran, and so I kind of grew up around a lot of that stuff. But it's just amazing, though, man. Now they got guys on the internet who are going to old houses and claiming the houses and actually winning. You see that?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, yo.
They
I haven't really seen too much of that, but I have heard about that. I've heard people talking about that, like in kind of like a derogatory fashion or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really know what the actual. I didn't know if these were like dudes that didn't really know the full math, or they're just trying to go on some fictitious stuff or whatever. But yeah, fill me in on that. How does it work?
They got guys out there on the internet, man, who are printing out pieces of paper claiming that like they're sovereign, the land sovereign, and they have the right to live in the house. And they were saying like a bank can't. They were saying a bank can't own a house because a bank's not a real person. They were saying a bank can like try to claim the house, but the bank can't own the house. And on those, I don't know their whole argument, but on those premises, man, they're taking over. They're out there getting houses. There was one dude on there saying,
if
"Go ahead."
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, if they're dealing in law, then that is entirely feasible. If they're dealing in completely law, because obviously, if you're dealing with Taj Street Bay, then you understand that there's quite a contradiction between the law and the legal system. Legal system binds us into these persons and personages, that are designations given to us under like a corporate constitution. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If they're dealing in law, then I would say that that's I can see that definitely happen, and that's where it's coming to. But check this out, y'all. So back in speaking of like this Moorish topic or whatever, this was back in like 08, 09, man. I was just doing some research or whatever, and I came across this bulletin, this national bulletin that the police department issued, where they were saying that the number one threat to the U.S. government were right wingers like Alex Jones, Tea Party types,
mm-hmm.
and the Moors. And I was like, what the hell? I mean, like that. It was baffling to me because I'm thinking, why would the Moors be a threat? Like to the U.S. government when this is like, if anything, like a fringe group of brothers, just trying to like figure out what's what, what I'm saying, or whatever. But, since then to now, I understand very clearly why we would be the number one threat to the U.S. government. Because we are the U.S. government. The U.S. government does not exist without the signature of the Moors. We have to understand, the Moroccan Empire, which, again, it spans the entire planet to date. The Moroccan Empire was the first we basically gave right to the United States of America. When we signed our treaty in 1780, whatever it was, Treaty of Peace and Friendship,
yeah,
that created the United States of America. And also, there were like, there was so much more going on before that. The America, again, the Civil War and everything that came before that. What was going on? You know what I'm saying? America did not exist at that time. And in fact, the Britons that we were fighting against, again, like I'm telling you, these were black Moors. The redcoats were black Moors, yeah? I'm telling you this. This is our history. And I just find it so fascinating that 98% of the country has no idea of this conversation that we're having right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well,
like the history basically. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, this, the history has been turned upside down, inside out, and it's only been a matter of like, it hasn't even been 400 years. We have not been in bondage 400 years. It's been more like 75 years that they actually had control over the situation, as far as like, basically in bonding, having us in slavery or indentured service or prisoners of war. Hasn't there really been that long? And that's why I say this is where this whole ET concept comes in. I don't know if have you heard of this guy by the name of Richard Smith? Richard Smith, UFO teacher. That's his little tag.
His name sounds familiar, but I don't remember seeing anything of him out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have sent you like a link in the very beginning, but it's probably on one of those that Skype page that you didn't have or something like that. But this is a white guy. He's from up north as well. You have to look him up. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
He deals with the Moors legacy, but with regards to the whole EP connection or whatever, And like he starts back with this whole Yaku thing or whatever, and I'm sure you've heard about that. So I won't get into that. But as it goes into like modern times, he's basically saying the reason why they were able to even hold the power for as long as they have in this small amount of time was because they had help from the ETs, and particularly like the Greys and some other motherfuckers and shit like that. And this is going all the way back, down to like the whole Nephilim, Enlil, Anki, Spat, and like even beyond. You know what I'm saying? So he's basically talking about like the stonemasons versus like the children of Solomon. You know what I'm saying? And that whole battle that's been going on since then is very interesting. But the reason why it's interesting to me because it kind of like clarifies. Because I've always been asking the question like, how is it possible that this type of reign could continue for such a long time, being how like humanity is such a fickle and fragile bunch. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like from one day to the next, we can change our mind about some shit, but for some reason, like you had this royalty that's been able to, control like power for at least like 2,000 years. You know what I'm saying? Since Jesus was around or whatever. I'm like, that's just seems there has to be something else going on. So I'm like, okay, well, the Nephilim, that explains it. Reptilian or whatever you want to say. They had help. They had assistance along the way. But with this guy, with this Smith, he really articulates how and why, you know what I'm saying, like they actually help, they decided to help the Caucasians, control this shit. And basically what they told them, they were like, listen, you guys are fucking basically falling apart over here. You've been conquered, whatever. You were sent over here, back, from 2,000 years ago because of how you were acting. Don't you want to get back at these motherfuckers that did this to you? They were like, okay, we're gonna give you guys new technology. We're gonna help you out. We're gonna create this whole banking system and all this stuff like that, and we're gonna let you control this stuff. The only thing you have to do is one thing and one thing only. Don't ever let the children of the Most High, the children of the Son, the original man, the original woman, don't ever let them reclaim their place. That was the deal, according to this guy, Richard Smith. And in fact, he just put out a book maybe like a month or two ago, basically chronicling everything that I'm telling you right now. So, to me, that fits in a key critical piece, that, at least in my mind, that I was, kind of questioning for a long time is like, how are they able, these individuals, like, from the line of the George Bushes and Bill Clintons and the Boris Yeltsins of the world or whatever, how are these clowns, able to maintain control like this when they can barely maintain control, like, from their day-to-day operations?
Man, I used to ask myself stuff like that. My personal feeling, like going back to what you said about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, from Morocco to the United States, the Ottoman Empire. To me, that's like the oldest treaty that the United States still has today. That's the oldest treaty, and the colleges, if you really think about it, the Constitution goes back to 1776, but the Europeans, the British and the British, they had colleges earlier than that. They had colleges here, like in New York and stuff, back in the 1600s and stuff like that, and they were already on the shores. Like a lot of the European people, they were already messing around. I think they're pirates, man. I think that's my.
Well, yeah.
I think they went to. I think a lot of those colleges were maritime admiralty schools, and they were taking information. Like they'd go over here and do this, go over here and do this, and they would gather information, and they were selling. I think they were hustling. I think they were selling liquor. I think they were selling opium. I think they were selling. They were bringing women. They were bringing white women from Europe and stuff, and Chinese, all the different women, black women. They were selling women. I think they were pimps and drug dealers who set up some colleges, and because everywhere you go, every town they had a brothel, a whorehouse. I think that's my bottom line. I think that's what they are. They're just pimps and hustlers who put on some royalty suits and put some professional titles next to their name, and they're just hustling. That's you know what I mean?
Dude,
Like, but
you're right. You're right, yo. They do exactly what they did. They stole our inheritance, yo. That's what I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they had anything. We okay. All you need to know is that basically, yeah. Again, they're not all because again, even then you're still giving them like just a bit too much credit because they're not even that. It's like it was just basically handed to them. Dude, you have to understand the slaves that you're talking about, the women that were being trotted around everywhere were white women. They were only white women. You know what I'm saying? Like for like up and until like the late 1600s to the 1700s when they actually got a stronghold over power, whatever, you know, via the ET connection. You know what I'm saying? Basically, whenever the Moors fell in Spain, you know what I'm saying? That was basically it. And most of them then fled over to here and then joined ranks with us or whatever. But they didn't even do that. They were basically proxy. And that's what we use them as proxies to fight our wars for us. That's how they got a foothold in any of this. You have to understand this. The Britishes, when you talk about the Britons, the Anglos, and the Saxons, you are talking about black men. 100%. You know what I'm saying? The original Anglos, the original Saxons, the Coburgs, all of those houses of Europe. I don't care how white it is right now, Switzerland, Iceland, all the whole Scandinavia. If you go back and do the research, they got a book right now. It's by J.A. Rogers. I think it's called Love, See No Color or something like that. In that book, it just goes into great details about chronicling like the history of Europe and the original founders of all of these nations and stuff like that, and showing all of these crests from all of these houses. I thought this entire time the Merovingians and all of these, you know, families that you hear about in Europe, these are original black families. And if you go back and look at the coat of arms, you see black men again, like 3 shades blacker than me, big red lips, with afros on the cover of most of these coat of arms, you know what I'm saying, back in Europe, from like the 700s up and until like the mid to late like the early 1700s. So basically 1,000 years, the Moors ruled Europe, along with the rest of the world. It's just like, particularly in Europe, just because, you know, it's just so amazing because, like I say, I mean, me personally, growing up and going to school and finding out about, you know, dealing with this European history and shit like that, I never heard anything close to this. I don't know about you.
mm-hmm. No, I never heard anything about the Moors or anything like that. I mean, you know, the public schools in the States don't talk about nothing like that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's shocking to me to be discovering this information as an adult. You know what I'm saying? But it's actually it is shocking, but at the same time, you know, it just kind of feels like, you know, it's good to actually have a bit more clarity and understanding as to who we really are and really what we need to do to get out of this mess, man. Because as far as I can see, whatever battle we choose to fight in this game, you know, in this system, in this prison, like electronic prison they got us in or whatever, like, I would rather die being who I am and like who my ancestors always were and standing on that than to live and play these games and accept privileges and, you know, be given like, you know, little pieces of rights and stuff like that in order to live under the system. You know what I'm saying?
You know what, man? I think one of the biggest things is the people, okay, like whoever they are, the people who run the charade. I think one of the biggest things is they feel that they have to do that to feel empowered because there's so much technology now, and there's so much stuff. You know, the world's a completely different place than it was even 20 years ago. My personal feeling is there's enough room for everybody. Like whatever happened, it happened. people should know their history. People should be educated and know the things that make them who they are. But at the same time, the people who you're talking about, like the people talk about like the Illuminati and all that stuff. I don't get what the big deal is. Why would you have to go through all of that to keep a charade going when you really don't even need it in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, I don't. To me, it's kind of silly. It's like, you know.
Well, if you have no true inheritance, if you have no true history, if you have no true lineage, if you have no true system of spirituality, if you have no true customs, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff like that, then what choice are you left with? You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially if your very nature is to fear things that you don't understand and that you cannot control. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what we're dealing with. Adolescent mentality. You know, it's like kids who, it's basically like I got a 6-year-old daughter, yo. It's like giving my daughter like free reign and freaking FAO sports or something. You know what I'm saying? And you just let her have at it. You know, it's like certain things like she understands on the level that she understands and that she's still quite abrupt, in how she interfaces with them. That's basically the individual controlling the planet right now. That's how I feel.
Well, what do you think about the concept of there's a lot of people who've spoken on the concept of reptilians. You have anything you feel about that?
Like I was telling you before, man, like I've done like that entire like Zechariah saga. I've read like most of those books except for probably like the last two we ended up putting out. And then, at the same time, I went through that whole Ike, like read all of his books, as they came out or whatever. And then, just referencing the holy text and all the stuff like that in ancient, writings and stuff. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously there's something else besides us and our war on this planet for sure. You know what I'm saying? But then I just look at it I try to take, me personally, I like to take everything, down to at least like some type of scientific reference or whatever. So in this case, I think about the biology of who we are, you know what I'm saying? And again, we do the sciences, psychology, we all have this aspect of our nature, the R complex, or the reptilian complex or whatever. Or we're said to all have it, you know what I'm saying? But it's been identified as an aspect of our psyche, as a part of our brain, like the lowest level, you know what I'm saying, like at the brain stem, so that's really before it even gets into the head. And this is basically, it's said to be the level of functionality that the Caucasian exists in, period. They don't go any higher in brain function than that, you know what I'm saying? But for us, again, we compose everything, but everything is not composed like from us, within us, you know what I'm saying? So basically, we can show aspects of that reptilian personality or the R complex, but because of the melanin and because of the nine ether, we have access to higher accesses of brain functions. In fact, infinite access of brain functions and beyond the brain. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference that you're talking about between, when you're dealing with indigenous or, sun-kissed people and you're dealing with individuals who are not original and are not, they basically were created, you know what I'm saying, literally and figuratively. And that's one thing through all the research I've done, they keep going back to that, no matter if you want to go this way or that way. It seems that these individuals were created. And at that time, that's when that R complex, that reptilian gene was instituted or initiated into the human DNA. You know what I'm saying? But you have to understand, we were around before that. We knew that was going on. We were here. And that's the story that we will be unraveling, I imagine, for the next, 25, 50 years, that aspect of things. Because, again, they can't really go back any farther than what they would call Greece and Rome, which, again, is a misnomer because that was all, like Etruscans, Phoenicians, and all these other names that they gave, again, Moors that had come up out of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So, their history is very minimal. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'll say 6,000 years max, and that's just giving them credit or whatever. But anything after that, they can't go back any further because the farther you go back, the blacker you go. The blacker you get. So there's a problem there.
Taj Tariq Bey and this other dude, what's his name? Not Sonetta, but I forget his name.
You're talking about
he's tall, skinny, light skinned.
Yeah, man, he's wearing glasses.
Yeah. I heard him talking one time.
Sabir Bey.
Sabir Bey. I heard him talking one time, man.
Yeah,
he said he was in a Masonic lodge. Him and Taj Tariq Bey were in a Masonic lodge, and the dude running the lodge was a 33-degree Mason. And he told the light skinned dude and Taj that he didn't have a problem. He said, "I don't have a problem with your people. Your people just don't know who they are." That's what that dude said that on YouTube, man. He said he was up in there with him and Taj were up in the lodge together with the dude, and the dude told him that.
Wow.
He said, "I ain't."
Straight up, as a matter of fact,
I mean, if he said it, that doesn't mean he that doesn't mean he necessarily feels that way. But he still said it though. That's what the dude
yeah, but
said.
What do you think he meant by that though? What do you think he meant by that?
My personal feeling is I think basically what he was saying was I think he was basically saying, I can't make you right. You have to get it. You have to do it yourself. You have to learn this stuff. You have to learn this stuff and find your way out of it yourself. I can't do it for you, but I don't have a problem with you.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, they have a problem with you more so that you are still ignorant to the facts of who you are, and that's essentially what I was saying like a little while ago. Is that it's really up to us. It's incumbent upon us to really step into our true status and our true nationality, and all of that embodies, and all of that is waiting for us, the good, bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of people on the planet will look at us differently. When I think it seems like the old planet is looking to America. I used to think for other reasons, but now I understand very clearly that they're waiting for us, the indigenous man and woman of this soil, to wake the fuck up and take back the reins of this shit before it just spins out of control to like an amazing degree. You know what I'm saying? Because literally, what we're calling America is really what our ancestors called North Africa anyway. You know what I'm saying? And we can go on and on with that, but man, we have a history that really needs to be unraveled in America alone, not alone the rest of the world, but in America, there's a lot that needs to be unraveled. And, I'll just say that everybody on the planet, they have a lineage. My wife, she's Indian, South Indian to be specific, so, Dravidian, again, Sighi, which is like the Moorish connection, to that Asiatic lens or whatever. But she has a direct lineage that she can point to and talk about in great detail. You know what I'm saying? Me as an African American, I've always felt so I remember just being in class at certain times and all these people are talking about their great this and that and all this stuff. Mostly white kids or whatever, and I'm just straight up, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't got the record. But again, even then, something didn't feel because I'm there has been, even if I don't know materially, I have to just go about just intuiting my past and my lineage and linking up that way, and then seeing what happens. But it's just a horrible feeling not knowing who the fuck you are, You know what I'm saying? For those of us who actually entertain those type thoughts.
Yeah, you know what, man? There was a Sicilian dude I was doing an interview with. He's about 18 and he's from Massachusetts. His name's Josh Guiglielmo. I can't pronounce his name, but he said his father is from Sicily. He speaks perfect Italian, and I did an interview with him. And towards the end of the interview, he was saying how Sicilian people were basically he was saying Sicilian people are black. He was saying that he was saying he was right, but he's 18 and he was saying that, and I never heard. To be honest with you, I would have been kind of I never would have brought that up around somebody like that because I would have been. You don't know how they're going to react. You know what I mean? And so I'm a little bit careful about how what I say to people, but he knew about it. and he's 18. So how he knew about it, I don't know. But I thought that was more of a secret. To him, it wasn't, and he was 18, and he had that history.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, man. Like, 'cause it seems like everybody knows except for us, and that's like the big joke. Because even, in Europe, I mean, okay, for instance, the work I do, right? I do like telecommunications, installing networks, building networks, servicing networks, and all that stuff like that. From like cable TV to what we're doing now is like this national broadband network, which is like fiber optics outfitting the entire country, whatever, right? So, long story short, I go into a lot of homes. I've been into a lot of homes since I've been here, and man, I meet some of these Eastern Europeans and some of these like old school Catholics and stuff like that. I go into their cribs and they'll have the black, Virgin Mary and Jesus like up there like it ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, they're not even like flinching on it. They know, they understand, and then it's like I'm sitting there shocked. You know what I'm saying? And they're like shocked that I'm shocked. So it's like a completely. I've experienced life in multiple different ways over here with regards to what people understand about who we are. You know, and it also makes me think about like these places I've been and I've experienced. Whenever you're talking about the whole Japanese thing or whatever, I just remember back. This was in '99. It was the year that the first Matrix came out. That summer, I went over to Japan. I'm sorry, to London with this chick that I was dating. And funny enough, like before I was in Miami, and this one guy that I knew just to I DJ and like MC and all that stuff like that. So I was out and about. This one guy who was he's part black and part Japanese. And we was on the beach one day right before we were getting ready to leave, just talking or whatever. And he was just imploring me, like, man, you have to go to Japan. Don't go to London. Go to Japan, man. I'm telling you, you gotta go, blah, 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 whatever. You know what I'm saying? And like, obviously I didn't go because we had already had things organized to go to London. Long story short, man, London was not really all of that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't really, too excited about shit when I got there. But one thing that did happen was so interesting, and I think about it now, is like we met these Japanese, like a couple of Japanese dudes and maybe a girl or something, and they immediately, they just was magnetized towards me, and just really wanted to like befriend me and like us and like wanted to really like it was us, but mostly me. They just wanted to know about me and like whatever I was into and all this stuff. They just invited us like back to their place, for dinner or lunch or something like that, and it was just really interesting, and I'm just like, wow, I never even thought, I never even imagined that I would be sitting here, like, chilling out with these Japanese that are so fucking open to who I am, what I'm saying, and so interested. But as I look back on it, they probably knew, what I'm saying, like, who I was before even then, like, long before I even knew who I was, and it's just interesting like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people who know stuff who don't talk about it. You know, um, one of the biggest things to me is like how though the information still they don't really got anybody. You never hear anything on the news about anything like that. It's just so crazy how the mainstream can just block stuff out. You know, even little. It's like
Well, they keep it quiet.
right.
They keep it. For instance, like I think it was back in 2009, whenever they actually all of the cities and all over the country, and basically in places all over the world, they all ratified essentially that Moorish treaty of peace and friendship, and all the treaties or whatever. And if you go back and look, if you look in all the city clippings around about time and just do that search, you will see the actual certificate. They printed the actual certificates of signage from the mayors or whoever was in charge, basically ratifying that agreement between the original Moors and what was then the United States government. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So even like a little quiet, because they have to basically, I guess the laws are, the rules are how it works, even if it's like in your face, but now you see me, now you don't type of way, they got to put it out there, and they did. You'll see, like all the signatures are there. So for those of us who like are actually, aware somewhat aware, you see, this is real, man. I mean, for a long time, man, I just didn't know what to. I couldn't call it about this whole Moorish legacy thing because there's a lot of, as you know, coming from up north or whatever, this is a lot of like information, like and misinformation and partial information and just straight up disinformation regarding, the subject. So it's very difficult to sift through all of this stuff, and then get to something that's actually tangible and realistic. But it's there, man, for sure. And if you like, it's good that like people like Taj Stewart Bay, like you, man. It's like this of a, his information is on point, He does not lie. He's not one of them cats that, thinks he knows what he's talking about. He's like showing and proving. So that I can say because I've got like a couple videos on Q here that I've had for like 3 weeks that I've been waiting to get back into regarding stuff that we've been talking about that he did just recently. So also while I'm saying this, a lot of the things, pretty much most of the information that I've kind of come across regarding the Moors that I've spoken to you about today, there's another brother who I definitely respect, man. I've been like on this path from day one, but mostly initially from his dealings with like black superheroes in the comics and how that's basically dealing with the Moorish legacy as well. But I'm talking about Asir, the Duke of Tears. Have you seen any of his material?
I haven't seen none of his stuff.
Yeah, man, Asir, the Duke of Tears. I'll have to see you some of that as well. He's very coherent, like these brothers. Taj Stewart Bay, he's a bit younger, closer to our age or whatever. But he's dropping like all of this science, But yeah, there's a lot of good information out there for anybody who's really trying to find out, especially any of us who grew up in, the wilderness of North America, as Malcolm X said back in the day, not knowing anything about who we are, being told that, we were brought over here on slave ships and our whole lineage, our whole history is, slavery. That's ridiculous.
You know who Brother Polite is?
Yeah, I've seen a few of his pieces for sure. Yeah.
Well, what do you think about you? You got any concepts on him? I know he used to be like he used to be with the Nubians, I think, at one time, and now he's sort of like just, he's on a lot of Sonetta stuff now.
Yeah. I've seen a few things about Hawaii. I think this one I probably got something of his on Q as well, where he's dealing with getting law stuff. I think all these brothers got something good to say, man. I just speaking of that on that topic, man. I like it was actually Sarnetta and Sabir Bey, and this is actually a debate from a long time ago. I just watched it like a week or so ago, and it was basically. Sarnetta was like, Egypt, Africa. And Sabir Bey was like, nah, what I'm saying? More. It's all the same. It's all more. We fucking come from this land. We come from everywhere, whatever. But, obviously back then, I think this is back in '09, Sabir Bey probably was not as knowledgeable as he is now or whatever, so he couldn't really articulate, like, the facts per se or whatever. But it was really, I couldn't help but watch the whole thing because I'm sitting here watching two really strong. Actually, it was three. I can't remember the third brother's name. Brooklyn, something or another, whatever. But it was three real young, strong, intelligent brothers, basically going at each other about, who we are. What I'm saying, and where we come from, and Sarnetta basically like cutting the head off the Moors and shit, and he's got wanting nothing to do with the Moors or whatever. And it's just like a big, like, there was misinformation on both sides, what I'm saying? And I just feel like, at the end of the day, it's good to have, like, a healthy debate and all that stuff like that. But if you don't come into it, with the understanding that, listen, man, whoever won the debate or whatever, if you're into that stuff, that's cool. But how is that moving the nation? How is that, going to help, me and my family, you and your family, your situation, whatever, what I'm saying? We need a blueprint, man. We need, like, game plans. We need, like, documents. We need to understand, like, the process and stuff. And then there needs to be, like, people actually showing improvement. And then, we can put it out there for everybody else, Because there's definitely not one way. But the one way that I do know and understand is through law. And that goes from as above, so below. What I'm saying? That's just the correspondence of it all. we have to fall into the true nature of who we are. By doing that, we're falling into the true law of nature and shit, which basically the entire Moorish principle was based upon. The whole aspects of all the laws were based on emanations of nature that we just materialize so we can move, throughout this life. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah,
and that's our legacy.
I'll tell you, man. I used to be deep into that law stuff. Like, I know there's a difference between law and legal. There's two different things. I used to go through online, man, and go through everything Taj was talking about, everything all the other people were talking about, and I used to just write everything down and reference it, cross-reference it. I mean, I used to be deep into that sovereignty stuff, man. The last few years, I just kind of, like last couple years, I just been, my research changed a lot, man, but that used to be one of my main focuses. But now when I go back, like Sonetta TV, I go on there, man. It's kind of like, I got nothing against Sonetta, man. He seems real cool, but it's almost turned into like a wrestling match or something. Cause now they had the Black Israelites on there, uh, versus the Moors and the Black Israelites. They had one of the Black Israelites on there. He was talking about how he was glad the police shot that dude. That black dude that got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I'm glad he died. That little nigga deserved to die. I'm glad I'd kill him myself. He was saying, I was surprised I was surprised they were letting him talk on there like that, man. I was like, they're gonna.
Yeah, see, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got to interrupt you because I actually misspoke, man. I was thinking when I was saying Sonetta, it wasn't Sonetta that was sitting there debating. Sonetta was behind the camera. Sonetta puts out the video, so okay, now I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, yo. I'm gonna tell you how I feel about Sonetta, man. I've seen a lot of this shit over the years, man. And Sonetta, yo, my humble opinion, he just on top of like creating like this WrestleMania type fucking environment or whatever, he flip flops. You know what I'm saying? So if he got like a true and living, from like the Nation of Islam or like from the Hebrew Israelites or whatever, if he got somebody that's on their game and know their math and stuff like that, and it's just him and them, he's gonna show them respect or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But if he's got some agenda, it's so obvious. You know what I'm saying? If he agrees with one individual as opposed to the other one, he's basically like tag teaming with the other one to get his point across or whatever. I'm like, dude, what is this? This is not fair and balanced, by any means, and it's very obvious or whatever. So but at the same time, I've seen Sonetta like host some really powerful brothers at the same time. So I don't understand why he would use that platform to kind of like bring such divisiveness and all of that extra hype, to something that should be, purely scientific. You know what I'm saying?
It went from being like, and I'm not just talking about Sonetta. I'm talking about in general though, man. Like the alternative platform about sovereignty and stuff. Like it went from being like peaceful, calm, intelligent conversations to like some UFC type shit. Because I saw one dude on there, man. He was dressed. You remember that movie, The Last Dragon, with Bruce Leroy?
Yeah.
Remember Showing Enough? Remember Showing Enough? They had a black Israelite on dressed like Showing Enough, man. I swear to God, man. He had he looked like a 1983 punk rock and roll star or something, man. He was on there he was on there with Brother Polite, and he was going up against Brother Polite, and then Brother Polite was going up against him, and I was just like, I was watching on YouTube, man, but it didn't seem like the content of it was meant to keep somebody informed. It seemed like it was meant to distract you from being informed. You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's funny, man. I've been noticing these same things, and I'm just, I'm trying to, I'll be giving cats the benefit of the doubt until it's just, blatantly obvious that there's something else going on. Like this cat, what's his name, King Noble?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you come across him, but he's another one of these cats that on the surface it seems like, it's all good, but then when you get into, like, the guts, he's promoting all kinds of just craziness, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of that as well. But, yeah, I see, like, that happens a lot up north, man. Like, them boys, like, everything, you're from up north, right? You grew up that way, yeah?
Yeah, my family's originally, like, my father, he was born in Mississippi, and so they came up here. My father and his family, they came up here when they were younger, but I was born up here though. I was born in Michigan.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, man, as you know, I mean, it's a different vibe from up there. Like, y'all brothers, y'all got all of that knowledge and stuff like that. Where down south, man, we just got the sun and like just vibes and shit. And we got knowledge just through. Like, I know me personally, just through like being in the woods and creeks and shit, growing up like that or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. I always thought New York and just that whole area, like all of those, like the Midwest to all the way to East Coast, like that, man. It was always so progressive with regards to just the knowledge and like the amount of information that you guys just had to probably from a kid. If it wasn't your direct family, it's probably one of their friends or a relative or something like that.
Who's really Oh, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to say I always noticed that, like, that thing about people from up north, like boys from up north or whatever.
Yeah, you know who's really cold, man? You ever heard of Brother Panic?
Oh yeah, Pan Demon for sure, definitely.
Yeah,
I fucks with Pan, man.
Yeah, he's from New York, and he got a YouTube channel called Occult Lectures, and it's like a pentagram.
Yeah.
On there, Brother Panic.
Yep.
Yeah, he man, I heard him in a few things. He seemed pretty. He had a lot of interesting things to say. And him, you know what, man? Him and like Dr. Z York, like Dr. Z York has some really cold information on there, and he, between Brother Panic and Dr. Z York, I listen to like them a lot, but there's not too many other people I listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, right now, I got the holy tablets on my shelf right now, I'm constantly flipping through that. That was basically Dr. York's masterpiece, the holy tablets. But and like I said, I mean, coming from Atlanta, like I was, growing up, in the '90s, whatever. That was when Dr. York was actually down in Atlanta and then ultimately down in Eaton, which led to his demise. But I mean, yeah, that really was. Especially during the time when there was all like Zechariah Sitchin and like, all these other authors, Eric Von Däniken and all these type, cats like that, to actually have the holy tablets and be able to sift through Dr. York's scriptures or whatever and how he perceived all of this or whatever, it was intense. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely give mad respect. But I think about it as well, like as far as hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cats, pretty much, I mean, like most all up north cats, they're all like 5%ers or like, at least like, Nation of Islam or whatever. And then you have like a few of them cats like De La Soul that were actually like Muwabians and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So I was actually thinking about Dr. York the other day and just wondering if there anybody actually ever reaches out to this brother, man, and like what's his state and like, all of this shit, because he did. I mean, what he did for us, you know what I'm saying, the generations to come after that, just by putting out their knowledge, it hadn't been done since basically like whatever W.D. Farad did, you know what I'm saying, whenever he came over.
You have you caught up with any of those guys from the NOI that are saying like they're saying there's guys out there from the NOI and they're saying that when they go to the mosque, like half the people there are like Scientologists.
Damn, no, I haven't heard about that.
They said
I wouldn't be surprised because. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. He said when they go to the mosque, it's like they got Scientology posters everywhere now, and there's a bunch of white dudes from England and stuff that show up there. That's what he told me, man. So that's what they were saying out there.
No, I believe it because I'm from actually I think from Cod Street Bay. I had that one video. The last one is like 2 hours long, like two of them. You know what I'm saying? On one of those videos is something he put out in the past couple of months. He's actually saying how like Farrakhan actually just had a meeting, whatever, with the Pope or something while the Pope was here, and he's already signed over the Nation of Islam to the Vatican or some shit like that.
Damn.
Okay? So yeah, I heard Cod Street Bay say that. I got the video right here, and another brother, I think it was Spirit, he touched on that as well. So that's what's going on with the Nation of Islam. But that brings me to another point, which actually really initiated me to correspond with you the first time. Whenever, again, I was listening to your interviews with Jordan Maxwell, and whenever you guys were talking about, you had asked him something about the Nation of Islam, and I don't know if you asked him directly about the Nation of Islam or what he thought about one of the main characters or whatever, and you guys began to have a little dialogue about that. And that's when I emailed them like, yo, that's not necessarily true, like per se, like how that happened. It's actually a bit more into that, and I think you'd be like very intrigued to understand like what was really going on with that shit. You know what I'm saying? And it all coincides with what you're talking about right now. So basically, what happened, man? You got W.D. Farad. He comes over from what was then Hindustan. There was no Pakistan. There was no India, right? He comes over early 1900s or whatever. He establishes the Nation of Islam. Goes about business of writing, like Supreme Wisdom and all like the books and stuff like that, and all the teachings and whatever. If you read his teachings, he does not deal with Islam as like the religion that we know it. He didn't even deal with that at all. There was no Arabic connection to it at all. You know what I'm saying? If you look at his shit. So basically, he wasn't teaching Islam. He was teaching basically Buddhism. That's what the Nation of Islam was founded on, the principles of Buddhism. Again, you're dealing with like universal mathematics or whatever. I won't get into that. But this is what this man was teaching. So boom, Elijah Muhammad, one of his students and shit, there's correspondence on record, there's letters in the archives that Elijah Muhammad wrote corresponding to W.D. Farad and back and forth. And he's telling him basically don't deal with the Quran at all, and especially in English. And he said the Bible is the devil's whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said to Elijah Muhammad. So if you look at all the scripts, like where, in Supreme Wisdom prior to Elijah Muhammad taking control over the Nation of Islam, everything is dealing with temples, temple this, temple that. Everything is dealing with, not Allah and all these, like, religious tenets and all this stuff like that. When Elijah Muhammad got control over it, he went back and edited and re-edited things in a way that basically made it a religious text when it was never that. You know what I'm saying? He put in things and he took out things that completely changed the text of books like Supreme Wisdom or whatever. And he changed the temples into mosques. And here we go. And here we are, that whole lineage, Farrakhan, everything like that or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So basically it was co-opted. And Elijah Muhammad, whatever, I mean, I'm not really emotional about, Elijah Muhammad per se, because I know he did some good things and, he did some things obviously that were not so agreeable. What circumstances he did them under, it can only be debated. But I do know that he was responsible for changing the original text that W.D. Farad put forward. You know what I'm saying? Not enough to like make you raise an eyebrow, especially if you're already Muslim and you think that, Mecca and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But to those of us who understand like what W.D. Farad was putting forward, it was nothing to do with religion. He was putting down the science of life based on natural law through Buddhism, which is, basically Buddhism, is literally like, how could you say, observations of nature in mathematical formula. That's what he was putting forward, y'all.
You know what?
Oh. That's that story.
Yeah, you know what though, man? There's a lot of Buddhist statues that got black features on it over in Ethiopia. They got a black dude on the internet, and he has Ethiopian Buddha statues, but they're almost like the Olmec statues looking, but they're Buddhist and they're not as old. But he was saying how over the years coming into now, he was saying Buddha originally looked black, and if you go to the Cambodian statue, you can see that in the nose. It's like the nose. Yeah, he was saying they turned Buddha into a white person.
Well, maybe in the West. You know what I'm saying? Like again, my wife is Indian. You know, I mean, like, everybody all the dogs are black in India and all over through that. You know what I'm saying? Like they know that for sure. I mean, if you go to all of those temples, you will see especially in the South, all those dogs are black. Yeah. And again, like um, the original Indians, what we call Indians now, Dravidians would be a more better name or whatever, but they are basically like a mix of Ethiopians and Moroccans, you know what I'm saying, or North Africans essentially. That was the original combination that created the Indus Valley civilization, the Mohenjo-Daro complex and all of that stuff like that. That was our people, yo. So of course Buddha was a black man. The nigga had cornrows for peak's sake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is how they showed him to Dave Clark. Come on, man. But I do think it's interesting how when we think about stuff like Buddhism and all that stuff, we immediately think about China. We don't think about India. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and that's where they call him Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. They say he came from India. He brought the knowledge from India.
Yeah, man, and also you heard of this cat called Bodhidharma?
Yeah.
You probably not.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Yo?
Yeah.
Yo, man. This is, that's a really amazing story, yo. He basically, again, he started like the whole Shaolin temple over in China and shit. He's like the first fucking, like, whatever they call him from China. You know, he came from this line of martial arts, or they call it like mental transference or some shit like that. Basically mind control. You know what I'm saying? The whole, like, aspect of using mentalism as far as, like, the whole system of, like, Chinese herbs and all that stuff like that. That was Bodhidharma, another Asiatic black man that came over there and set that up for them. And they'll tell you that as well. There's a lot of debate and shit like that, but they got statues of this dude over there, you know what I'm saying? As a black man over, in that area, the Shaolin Temple and all of that, So everywhere you go, I'm telling you, the first couple of dynasties, the Shang dynasty and the one or two after that, go back and look at pictures of those motherfuckers back then, That's all you got to do. Look up Shang dynasty and look up some of the arts and artifacts of that period, and you'll see beyond a shadow of a doubt. Those are the same people, you know what I'm saying, our distant relatives that we had lost through the land breakup. Those are the same individuals that came over to America and met up with the Olmecs. And then we began to connect up again, and we created all that stuff like that, yo. That's our history, man.
Yeah. I think there's something real big. There's something real big with that.
They're finding artifacts all over America, you know what I'm saying? Like all kinds of, like, from Egyptian to, Vikings and all kinds of stuff, like all these people, you understand, all these people in history that we hear about, the Vikings and all these motherfuckers, they're all black. They're all, like, Asiatic, I should say. I should be more, like, scientific or whatever. These are Asiatic people, man. And this is just so shocking to me, and it's so unbelievable. I was sitting here, like, having this conversation with a guy that I work with. He's my boss, actually. He's from Jordan. I'm sorry, he's from Palestine, Muhammad. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here breaking down some math to him, and he said, this is a freaking Muslim. He's in here thinking that, according to Muhammad, that, like, what was it, like Adam and Eve or some shit, and like it was like Cain and Abel or some shit, like God created like a black boy and a white boy or some shit like that. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? That's what you're a Muslim and that's what you're telling me you believe. You know what I'm saying? If you're actually going to believe in some shit or whatever, but yeah, so I mean, it's just like people are so, like this, a lot of people don't know what to think, but when you present something to them that's actually relative, but they may have to do a bit of, understanding or research or clarifying of themselves or whatever, like people just don't want to hear it, man, from my perspective.
Yeah, I was getting some information from a channeling session, and they were saying that people with red hair, like, if people have red hair, he was saying that came from Mars, and then it was brought to Mars from the Pleiades and the Orion constellations, like the Nordic red-haired people.
Yeah.
You ever heard anything like that?
No, I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard these guys, you know, of course, there's always talk about the tall whites. You know, I hear a lot about the tall whites and stuff like that. But I've never heard that particular one before. That's interesting. But yo, you know, what was the, I'm sorry, this is his name, that you do a few shows with. She dealt with the ET aspect as well. I think she's had like a couple of experiences. What's her name?
Oh, Delgadis?
Delgadis, yeah. So what is she? Because I've only heard like maybe like one or two of you guys' interviews and stuff like that. But what's her take on this whole thing? Like, I mean, I know she said that there's, you know, firsthand that she knows because she's an experiencer, but also I think it must have been one of the first pieces you guys did together. She said that she knows tons of black people that have had these experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, she did say that. Yeah. She basically what she's.
That to me was a shock. When she said that, I was like, "See, I mean, I was actually like pleasantly surprised, type of shit." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But what's her take on all of this? You know, because she obviously has like a more in-depth view than at least I do, because I don't think I've ever had an experience that I remember anyway.
She blows me away with a lot of her concepts. She was basically where she's coming from. She spoke on in one of the interviews. She was saying that she thinks the people running all this are really black people, and they're using the white people as a buffer.
It's funny that she's saying that because, dude, that's what I just explained to you with regards to this whole black-on-black crime thing, and we basically first enlisted the Caucasian as proxies to do all the fighting for us. Yeah, but go ahead, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, she's basically saying that, okay, like the people running everything are actually black people, and they're using the white people as a buffer to keep everything in line, so they can keep doing what they're doing. I mean, that's where she was coming from on one perspective, but then she had said something else. She was saying that the melanated people, the white people who run everything, are trying to mix with the melanated people so they can keep themselves going. So, like, on one side, she was saying that, you know, she thinks it's black people run everything, but then again, she said something a little bit different where it could be like just the white Illuminati. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting her overall view. I don't know her. She got some really good stuff, man. And I don't know exactly what her overall view is. I just know little bits and pieces of what she's told me. You know.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense what you just said, because I mean, obviously, you know, they're just placeholders. They know that. They realize that. So on top of it, they realize that genetically they are deficient. So yeah, I mean, if they have the reins of power, they understand that even if, you know, they can control it for X amount of time, they have a shelf life because of their genetic background. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, it will behoove them, because again, that's what we taught them. Again, those European Moors that were the descendants of their old Dominion Moors from the Empire started mixing with them or whatever. And I'm telling you, the term harem, the harem that you always hear about and you see in the movies, again, that's a Moorish concept, that when we were taking all the white women from, you know, over there in Eastern Europe or whatever, and Eastern to Western Europe, and just like shipping them all around and in harems and basically feeding them up and, you know, making them pop half breed babies out so we could civilize them up and like put them in positions of power. So whenever we fell, we would basically give them the paperwork. You know what I'm saying? And then they would just hold the place for us until we came back around. That was the deal. They reneged on that deal. So, you know, apparently in 2012, that's why the Pope came over here. And this is what my man, Sir Ducatiz, is just breaking down as well, and something he just recently put out. He was saying that whenever the Pope came, he only came to all the original cities like Philadelphia, all the cities that the Moors originally founded. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The Pope went to all of those cities and broke bread and basically said that, yo, your time is up. Y'all got to fucking, like, you basically rogue right now. Nobody even acknowledges the American government as it stands right now. So basically, our shit is just like in limbo. It's like in some type of receivership or something that we can't get it back because we don't know who we are, yo. It's quite interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's basically kind of what's going on that level with, with regards to what's going on with the American government. And the only way that they're valid is they continue to spark wars all over the place. And also he was saying that every single president since like whichever one from like World War II, the first thing they do, the first they get into office is continue the Emergency Powers Act. This has been going on from like ever since then. So that basically gives America like validity because they can only be valid if they're under a state of war. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, they don't even exist anymore. So apparently, the Pope came over and told Obama, like, look, man, y'all are done. You got to basically hand over your power back to fucking the Vatican and get in the back of the line type shit or whatever. So basically, America is like in limbo, yo. Yeah, seriously. That's what's going on right now. But apparently, Obama did during his time in office, he's done a couple things like on the slide that will basically make you think that he was actually aligned with some of those individual Moors that Delgados was speaking of that actually was really controlling his shit. So that makes sense, yo.
Cause you know what, man, there was one chick, and she was saying like all those black budget programs and stuff. She was saying that a lot of those programs have gone bankrupt and they don't even got it no more. They be sleeping on boxes at warehouses and shit.
Wow.
She was saying it's like collapsed on them. Like the money and all that, like something's gone wrong. And so that makes a little bit sense what you were saying about them saying it was over. You know.
Yeah, and the foundation shaking. And the only reason why I'm kind of like you, yo. Like I was like kind of like back in '05, back in '04, '05 or whatever, during that period, I was full on into this research because I was just, two things was going on. I was personally for myself trying to figure out, how could I get out of this fucking, crazy web of death and shit. Mm-hmm. And secondly, I just happened as fate would have it, I was doing some work with, obviously you would have heard of Jim Brown and shit or whatever coming from fucking Michigan and shit, you know what I'm saying? He has this organization called American, and he's had it since like the 90s or whatever, And so he was trying to kick some shit off down in Florida, in Miami. He was wanting to use me and my homeboy like to basically, get this shit organized because it was in the streets. We had our ear to the ground or whatever. Long story short, man, like it ended up like me being in a position to actually sit back and organize some things and try to figure out like how I could free myself. But as well, we were dealing with like the youth, like boys and girls caught up in this like juvenile justice system, this rotating, door from like the juvenile system to the prison system, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I was just sitting there beating my head. I'm like, yo, what can I do? How can, because I can't just go in there understanding that, this is a system that's foreign to us anyway. And just by me going in there and pleading, okay, because I was trying to figure out if I was going to do law, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. I wanted to go to school and do law and then come back and represent my people, actually pull them out of the system. You know what I'm saying? Not just go in there and represent them. But when you ask me, how do I plead? I'll go, well, what jurisdiction do you have? You know what I'm saying? And then we start doing that dance or whatever. But I just couldn't, man. I just couldn't figure it out. Just too much shit. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't get anything solid, no foundation, no absolutes. Very few absolutes about all of this research or whatever. So I kind of just threw it to the side. And what happened was Ricky Williams, he was actually like playing for the Miami Dolphins at the time, and he was sponsoring Jim in Miami. Mm-hmm. So basically, this was right when this cat, he had given Jim like a portion of this $200,000 that he had promised to Jim or whatever to help us do our thing in Miami. Right at that same time, he gets caught up in this whole marijuana scandal. You know what I'm saying? And he quits football and all this stuff like that. So all of that went downhill. You know what I'm saying? And like I ended up coming here because at that point I'm like, yo, I'm not going to sit here and work, some job, and just barely survive or whatever. So the long and the short of it is I ended up putting all of that on hold. So I just kind of stopped doing that research about the Moors as far as like the school on into it. And I just started kind of like getting it in drips and drabs since I've been over here, and finally starting to get information from Bubba, like Seer the Ducateers, and also what's the other Bubba's name you mentioned earlier? Taj Tariq Bey, like individuals like that who actually knew what they were talking about and were showing improving with documentation and all this stuff like that, and making sense of it historically, spiritually, and all that stuff, And then I got re-inspired because I saw like the outline that needs to be followed in order to free myself, and my family and the seeds to come, from this bondage, And that's what I'm saying. Regardless of whatever battleground we choose to fight in, if we are not standing on our square as free and true citizens of like the nation that we were born and all of that encompasses or whatever, then they can control us. You know what I'm saying? Basically, we become like diplomats. Like we become higher than diplomats immediately. You know what I'm saying? Our our documentation, all of our paperwork, all of that. We have the formula. We have the blueprint now. We can change all of that. Our status completely changes. We're outside of the system. You know what I'm saying? A national and a citizen are not the same thing, and that's what I know 100%, yo. Regardless of all the other bullshit, like all that other stuff, like, the claiming of houses and all of that, that's beautiful. I'm with that. But first thing I need to understand is how do I protect my family, my state, you know what I'm saying, from this beast system that's all around and, like, can fill my wife and my daughter up, going through the airport, and I really have nothing that I can do except for fucking turn around and don't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if I'm standing on my square and if I'm, like, in my true and national status as I'm maneuvering through this existence, then there's a whole set of laws that relates to you and me, like, once we make that move.
You know what, man? I went through the airport. This was a few months ago, and nothing even happened. Like the people that did me, they were real cool, man. And it's worse for me than you, bro, because I look Middle Eastern to them. I look Middle East, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look Arab, and so they think,
they fuck around and put
then they see Jameel.
You fuck around and put a scarf on, yeah, you'll be done.
Then they see my name Jameel. Historically that's an Arabic name, and so I always thought like I have the hardest time. And the people that were working there, man, they were cool. It's called. I don't know how it's going on in Australia, or when you come internationally. Like if you come in internationally, they might be way more tighter because I didn't leave the country. I just went to a different state, but they didn't. I mean, it wasn't. It seems like they've calmed down a lot. The emergency thing where, because they used to be tripping, man. The Homeland Security.
Yeah.
When I used to go through there, I went through there a few years ago, and they were tripping. They were on high alert. Not just me, everybody. They were even doing it to like regular middle class white people. They were acting like that, and now it seems like they kind of like, I don't know. It seems like they chilled a lot.
Yeah, they were shaking everybody down, huh?
Yeah, they were tripping. They were acting like they were acting like you ever seen somebody's house get raided? Like a crack house or something? They act like it was a crack house raid. Like they throw the kids, everybody against the against the wall and shit. They're like, where's the dope?
Yeah, man.
Where's the drug? That's how they were acting,
Yeah, man. Fucking paraplegics and shit getting fucked up, and I've heard all kinds of horror stories, man.
Yeah, they've calmed down a lot, but man. I was gonna say, like Jay-Z. This is my big thing. Like the rappers, like Jay-Z and a lot of the big rappers, they go to Africa. Even Wycliffe was saying I think Wycliffe he was trying to be the president of Trinidad at one time. Or in
Haiti.
Yeah, Haiti. These guys go to all these different countries, and then they get cool with the people, and the people look up to them. People over in Africa, they look up to Jay-Z, man. And so when Jay-Z comes over, he gets cool with them, and then the companies like Rockefeller and all these companies, the corporations come in and do business deals with them and stuff like that. It's almost like the rappers are attempting to sell the people out. You know?
Well, it's funny you saying that because two things regarding that. What do you think about the situation with Akon and these solar panels? You've heard about that, right?
Akon and who?
The solar panels. He furnished like fucking some, I don't know, like 5 million solar panels or some crazy amount actually somewhere over in Africa. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I didn't hear about that. What happened?
Yeah, this was a few months back, man. It made the news and stuff. Like everybody was giving him props because he did this thing for like whatever country. Where is he from?
Akon, I don't know. He sounds like, I can tell he's not from here. He sounds like he's from like,
might be Nigerian or something. Whatever country he's from, he set up this thing where he furnished like millions of panels or millions of dollars worth of solar panels and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good. But I remember seeing Jay-Z, like this was back, probably like 8 years ago or something. I remember seeing Jay-Z walking through like some little shanty ghettos in Africa with what's his name? Not Bill Gates. I think maybe it was Bill Gates. You know what I'm saying? Or the other one. You know what I'm saying? Like in some water program. So I always question. I mean, it's good. But I always question that shit at the same time. Like, yo, what are these cats really doing? And what's this really about? Like it's probably a cover for some other shit. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Him
like
and Nas,
some eugenics type.
Yeah, him and Nas seem to have something going on. Because him and Nas were saying they were beefing and stuff like that, but I saw him and Nas doing a Masonic handshake. So
yeah.
Then he had an Aleister Crowley t-shirt on. Jay-Z, he had like a throwback Aleister Crowley shirt on and shit, talking about do what thou will and all that stuff with all that stuff. He's tripped out, man.
But then they want to tell you ain't nothing going on, keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
But he was saying it. He had some lyrics in the song, and he was saying like, "Murder Jesus, murder Jesus."